know you make me float, float. Boy, you really give me high. Ooh, I feel like I'm on dope, dope. 'Cause you serve me on a regular.
Even coat, especially where the skin tone or the previous paint doesn't look very even, especially like right here on the underside. So I don't know if you can tell, but I can already see a big improvement on the evening out of the skin tone. And honestly, I don't really mind if there's variations. I just knew that it could look better. When I'm doing a vinyl kit, I notice that the highlights and the lowlights and the variations in color looks like variations, actual variations in skin tone, especially when we're dealing with a newborn baby. Newborns do have mottled skin, and I didn't do an actual model coat. I don't know that it's really necessary on an ethnic baby, but when you look at how I do it, it may make you want to do it a little bit different, and I hope it does. I'm not here to tell you how to do it. I'm only showing you how I do it, and I want you to develop your own style, your own way of mixing paints, your own colors. You might not even be doing an ethnic baby. You might want to do a Caucasian baby, and you might see other ways that you can implement some of my ideas with yours. You can see where some of the paint has already gathered into the creases, and that's why I don't need to do any creasing. I painted the other arm off camera, and now we're to one of those big pretty feet, and I'm just checking out this skin tone and whether or not any pink was left behind from the previous painting, and there was a little bit of pink under the big toe. I'm being very careful when I do the toes. I'm trying to make sure that I don't get the toenails, and we don't need to get the tips or the ends of the fingers and the toes, because we're going to be blushing the toes and we're going to do the nails a different color. This is where I saw a little light spot, and I'm just trying to add a little extra darkness to it, but basically this limb is done. Let's move on to the head. This is how Steven looked after we left him yesterday. Not too bad. I don't think the blushing was too much, but the stick stuck to his lips, so we're going to do a little cleanup here. Getting these little slivers of silicone is really tough. But remember, yesterday we poured some extra silicone down into his mouth, and because I hang him upside down, it went to the roof of his mouth. So we're going to have to do something better to make sure we can get some at the bottom of his mouth where his tongue would be. It's here where I can really see that Steven's face needs to be evened out a little better. Now, I know he'll still be a cute baby even if we didn't take that second step, but he'll be even better. But I'll admit, I'm scared. I don't want to mess up his face. Okay, it's done, and let's give him a nice spritz with alcohol, and we'll clean up any residual silicone balls so they don't get stuck to the new paint. So as per normal, I like to start at the back in case it's hideous and I can't deal with it. So we'll do the back first, but it's not going to be hideous. So now we're going to tone down that transition in color on his forehead and then further do a better transition to his face. Notice that I'm just using the residual pigment from other portions of the head to darken the cheeks a little bit. Also, when we get to the very end and it's time to matte the baby, it will definitely mute the colors down. So you'll notice that Steven will turn lighter after the matting powder has been applied. He's already beginning to even out a lot. I think it's an improvement. I like it. I'm adding a tiny bit of shadow, hopefully not too much. Finally, it's time to touch up the back of the neck, and you'll see it's extra light because when I'm holding this heavy head, he has to rest on my knuckles. So it's better for me to sacrifice that back of the neck than the front of the chin. Okay, and I think Steven is looking good. Let's let him cure and then go on to the next phase. Now it's been several hours later. The body parts have cured, and let's take a look at Steven. How is he looking, guys? That poor baby has that bruise on the side of his face. Let's look at some of the limbs. Yes, I think it evened out. It looks really good. That final coat of brown really did the job. And of course, one of my favorite things to do, check the cure on the paint. So that's been a couple of hours. It's a very thin piece of silicone left over, and that is the goal. Leave as little paint as possible. So now it's time to do some detail work, and we're going to mix several colors together. So we're just going to start with a base of silicone, and then I'm going to separate it into smaller wells. And I am going to make a brown tone. The brown is basically going to be for the knuckles and maybe some shading. We're going to make a yellow tone. The yellow is, I just think, for an ethnic baby, it just brings more dimension. So just a little bit of highlights. We're also going to mix a lip color. So we're going to do 2 tones for the lips. And for the brown, we're using espresso, and I'm finally using my dipper because there's only a little bit of silicone in that well. You can see that I'm basically just defining the lines and the folds in the knuckles. And I just touched up anywhere else that I thought it needed some definition. I did the other hand off camera, but now to the foot. And with that done, it's time to do Steven's face. This is the scary part, guys. I'm not gonna lie. But he really doesn't need very much. I like to define the eyes, like just where the eyelids meet. And you need such a thin brush to do this part. And of course, if you go outside of that line, you can always clean it up. But I think you can tell the difference. See how it just I don't know, that definition makes it look just a little bit better. And if at any time I feel like the line is a little bit too harsh, you can just dab it right off. And working on Steven lips, that was hard. Actually, lips are always hard, but his lips were particularly difficult, and I think it has a lot to do with how the vinyl had been contaminated in the beginning, and it just really was hard to accept any type of pigment. But right now we're just going to define it, define his lip line with a darker tone, and then we'll go back in and try to color his lips with some natural lip color. And he's a little boy. He doesn't need pink lips. He doesn't need bright red lips. No doll really does. Now it's time to move on to the yellow highlights, and that is cool yellow. What I like to do is to highlight between the knuckles. And then I basically dab it off because yellow stains, and when it dries, it gets more yellow. Also, there should be yellow on the high points. So if you see a fold, then on the high point of the fold, there could be a little bit of yellow. You can kind of mask some of the marks on the baby, the discoloration. That might even be a high point. And it's the exact same thing with the foot. whenever I do a yellow highlight, I always do it here in the center of the forehead, right between the eyes and the nose. And I always get the eyelids. And I also always do the ears. Now it's time to work on the lip color. I'm separating some of the silicone to make another well for 2 lip tones, and I am using a dirty brush because it is going to contain a little bit of brown. So that is the crimson oxide. And then we just basically need a red, which I think this is scarlet. And since we have that red made, I like to add some rosiness to the palms of the hand, just in parts, not the entire thing. But again, I'm having problems with the hands, the bottom of the hands. They don't really want to accept the paint. And again, that has everything to do with the kit being contaminated at the very beginning. But typically, red stains, and it shouldn't be any problem getting a little bit of stain on wherever you want the rosiness to appear on the palms. This second hand, I think, did a lot better. Also, it's optional to put a little bit of color on the elbow. Make it kind of blotchy. We don't want just like big old red circles. I love the way the heel of the foot looks when there's a little red added. I also added a little touch of redness to his knees. Also, I don't want to forget about the ankles. Now we're back to Steven's face. A newborn baby is going to have some red. The key is not to make the baby red. So there's going to be a little bit of redness on the cheeks and on the nose, on the eyelids, the chin, definitely the ears, and a little bit on the lips. And I'm touching up Steven's little bruise. And now it's time to work on the lips. Now working on these lips is going to be tiresome, so we're going to speed this up even more. And finally done with the lips, and we're on to some rosy cheeks and a little depths to the shadows. And in the next episode we'll get to the fingernails. So thanks guys, and the toenails. So thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.